How are we all doing? We're good. It's really good to see you all here. And it's my very great pleasure to be with you at the For Britain conference in Liverpool in 2018. I think you should all give yourselves a round of applause for making it here, to be brave enough to be here, and for having the courage to do what you do. It is a sad truth that in the UK in 2018, it takes real courage to come to an event like this and to say what you really think. At times, I'm sure we all feel like we're battling a kind of madness that our society is being kind of captured by, the political leaders and our compliant press who seem determined to send this country to hell in a handcart. I think they all need sectioning. But the same few know that this fight is real and that this is a country worth fighting for. A country and a land of hope and glory, of eating fish and chips in the rain, of Chaz and Dave, rest in peace, Chaz. My father's very upset for Chaz. I joined the army after university to do exactly that. I went through Sandhurst as one of the girls and an intelligence corps cadet, which my father still finds a joke to this day. We started as a platoon of 30 girls versus 180 of the weaker species, the boys. And it's a dangerous place to say this stuff, eh? And 9 of us girls made it through. I was one of them, but I think I'm probably the first secret epileptic to make it through the academy, but I do respect that an epileptic with a rifle on semi-automatic might not be the best idea, so I get it. But courtesy of my epilepsy, a spell in big business in Manhattan, and then a brush with little Lord Sugar, who is only nipple height, by the way, which I find very distressing. He's only marginally taller than Tommy Robinson. So I now fight for my country in a different way here, with you guys, and vaguely in the media when they'll let me. And I know I'm joined by millions of good people like yourselves in the UK who are also fighting back because we believe in Britain. Overseas, we are rapidly becoming something of a tragic curiosity. I'm asked by Americans, why did Britain allow this to happen? I'm told by strangers they'd never visit London again because it's just not safe. Britain is held up by Polish MPs as an example of what happens when you fail to protect your people. And of course they're right. If you don't put on your best welcoming face around Muslim migrants and jihadis in the UK, you're branded Islamophobic. My own Islamophobia was brought about when 2 jihadis tried to behead me. A young woman, I'm sure she's a Brit, wanted my head as a wedding gift for her jihadi boyfriend. She bought him a dummy body and a hunting knife to practice with, and they planned their attack. I fantasise about Katie Hopkins' head to hair, said, "She's the biggest bitch of them all." You better believe it, sister. I do hope you're enjoying prison life now and that your knees aren't too sore servicing your community. So when we look out across this country we used to know, it's a depressing picture. Mainly thanks to unchecked immigration, our schools are full. Our NHS completely overwhelmed, and our streets increasingly lawless. You're more likely to be raped now in London than in New York. You're more likely to be attacked with acid in East London than in Islamabad. And when it comes to terror, the head of the UK MI5 said the risk is now impossible to contain or control. On Saturday night in Londonistan, another 3 young lads were added to the Stabathon tally. 1 died of his injuries, and yet the police still seem powerless to do anything about it. Police can't stop and search because it's racist. You can't round up gang leaders posturing for a fight because it infringes on their human rights. And when kids commit a crime on motorbike, the police can't give chase unless the little bastard is wearing a helmet. Health and safety first, people. And whilst the Met Police may have lost control of London, one thing our little Muslim mayor has cracked down on with his mates in Yorkshire is hurty words online. Last year, 9 people a day were arrested for things they thought and wrote online. The Met Police has 900 full-time specialist officers policing Twitter, mostly my Twitter, or previously Anne-Marie. Sat on their backsides in warm offices reading social media, never mind the fact that over 100 kids have been murdered so far since the start of 2018 this year. The exclusion of a law-abiding citizen, which I'm sure you all read about, Brittany Pettibone, a right-wing activist, and her lovely partner, Martin Sellner, whom I've met, on the grounds of future hate speech as yet unsaid. That was a new low, even for Britain. Detained for 2 days at the border of the UK and then deported because the speech they wanted to give at Speaker's Corner might upset local communities. Don't you love that, local communities? Like a BBC euphemism, Asians. If 100 men are found guilty of raping our children in mass grooming gangs, the BBC used the term Asian and throw a few Sikhs, half of India and a bit of Taiwan under the bus, so that the Pakistani men raping our children don't feel bad, inshallah. The majority Pakistani men jailed in June for abusing girls as young as 13 were referred to as Oxford men. Oh yes, the learned men of Oxford. Let's see what their names were. Asad Hussain, Kamia Iqbal, Khalistan Hussain, Kamran Khan. Yeah, Oxford, really, through and through. And again, if you can't be honest about a problem, you are not going to fix it. Lauren Southern was detained in Calais, as you'll recall, and deported because she once used her platform to question in provocation if Allah is gay. I'm blowed if I know either. But I guess it'd be a little bit unfortunate for him, given ISIS are prone to throwing homosexuals off of tall buildings. She was deported essentially for blasphemy laws which no longer exist. And if we now have de facto Sharia, what's next? If I commit adultery again in the UK, I ain't never going to heaven, it's okay, I got over it. Will I be stoned by angry Muslim police? We do have the Muslim Police Association now, don't you know? And given my sexual history, it's not looking good. But Lauren was hauled off a bus at the border and deported at the same ferry port, where I have watched truckloads on truckloads of illegal immigrants waved across knowingly without question. A jihadi who put a bomb on our subway came to the UK via Calais. He told officers he had trained with ISIS for 3 months learning how to kill unbelievers. We gave him a home, a foster family, and an income, and in return he made a nail bomb and chose to put it on an underground carriage full of school children. You know, I do wonder about these returning jihadis, don't you? They were supposed to go over and blow themselves up, and they failed. So actually, not really a returning jihadi, are you? Just a shit one. You're just not that good at your job, and if you're a failure, I mean, how do you even live with yourself except shit? You have to, because you can't blow yourself up. I spent 48 hours in the jungle at the migrant camp in Calais, and it's a place that is softly and quietly rebuilding as we speak. You know all those tents that were left behind at the Reading Festival by the do-gooders on the left? Guess where they were sent? Calais. And you will have all seen the pictures of the migrants there masquerading as children and asylum seekers fighting their way through the tear gas and the steel fencing to break into the trucks crossing over from France to Dover to sneak into the UK. During my time there, my photographer, a lovely guy, was lynched, his camera was stolen, his wallet taken, I had my arm dislocated, and they came for us with steel bars. We were put in the back of a van and taken out of the camp to safety. So I went back in the next day. I was told to cover up by the lefty charity workers there, the do-gooders, you know, the types, Lily Allen and her kind of crew. They told me to cover up my shoulders because I was offensive to Muslim men. So I stripped off. And they didn't like my tiny tits much better either. Sadly, I met a lady with a little boy, and I was trying to find this quieter story. I genuinely went there to tell the truth of the camp. Real women with real problems. And so her little boy, you know, was the first child I'd seen in camp. And she was out on the road one night with the little child, wrapped up all warm. And this little boy and her were trying to get on a truck to make it to the UK. There is a sad story to the camp at Calais. And she invited me to her little caravan place where she lived. And it turned out, you know, that her little boy was in fact a little girl. And at night time by the road, she dressed him as a little boy so that the migrant men wouldn't come and try and take her daughter from her. And I learned a big lesson in that camp as well. I was really naive. Many of us might share this. Migrants don't come for a new life, new hope, and leave everything behind. They bring everything with them, all their old conflicts from back home. And my Swedish friends will know this well. The Eritreans hate the Somalis, who hate the Afghanis, who still don't speak to the Libyans. And they're all still fighting, and they bring all those conflicts with them to our doors. And these are the truths we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about the alternative views that need to be heard. And finding voice for those who feel that they have none is at the core of everything I now do. It's the reason I spend so much time on the road, holding up a mirror to the small things in life, to challenge the narrative that we are fed. And whether that's from Palestinian refugee camps, where I was earlier this year, which are actually really nice housing estates, all fully maintained, electricity, water, really nice homes, but they like to call them refugee camps because of the status it confers, of a people aggrieved, a people without a home. Or spending time in the jihadi capital of Europe, in Belgium, where the mayor there told me she didn't report the man who went on to commit the Bataclan terror attacks in Paris, even though she was given his name and address, because it wasn't her job. And where the Friday food markets, many of you may have seen this stuff, just looked like Morocco or Marrakesh. I was the only white woman there with her hair uncovered. Or sleeping on the farms in South Africa, where whites are being systematically genocided from the land, but because they're white, no one cares. Some of you will have seen, I recently spent time in Bradford, out of choice. A city with one of the highest Muslim populations in the country, to better understand what's going on there. Drugs are dealt openly in the street and the proceeds laundered through car dealerships and car washes, which are everywhere. Young white girls are seen as easy meat. A hotel owner, a local guy, really good guy, he provides council places for emergency accommodation needs. And he tells me that when he cleans out his hotel rooms, he does it with a big bin, a shovel, and then a bonfire. Finding 200 needles on the floor and blood spurted up the wall is pretty standard process for him. And in the city centre, a 14-year-old girl tells me all her friends take heroin. It's normal. And another gentleman, an Asian man, advises if you give a white girl heroin, she'll do anything you want. No Go Bradford is not exactly that. I went. But it does speak to a place where whites are not welcome. And certainly not a place people go after dark. And where the police deliberately turn a blind eye. Bradford police are happy issuing parking tickets and fines to speeding offenders in the polite, white parts of Bradford. Meanwhile, in the no-go zones, there are drugs, fast cars, and young white girls being trafficked for pleasure. all operating with complete impunity. We know the UK is in trouble. I receive letters from elderly men and women, just like my mum and dad, your mum and dad, around 70, 80 years old, and they tell me they're glad their time here is nearly up because they don't want to watch their country fall, and they'd rather be gone before that happens. And they break my heart. But you know, there is hope. I can feel it. I can feel it all around us. I feel it with the number of people dedicated and courageous enough to be sitting in this room right now. I feel it in the 17 million or so trustee Brits who voted for Brexit, considered racist or stupid or wrong, but still determined to be heard. I feel it across Poland, Italy, Austria, Germany. The voices of the discontented are rising up, saying no to the globalist agenda of the people that are managing the decline of Europe and letting us fall. And I feel it in Italy, where Salvini is leading the charge, and the left-wing socialists have been kicked out of power, replaced by the anti-immigration parties who want to put Italians first. And I feel it in Germany, where the Alternative for Deutschland is now the main opposition party, and Merkel appears increasingly desperate, spreading disinformation against the peaceful protesters in Chemnitz. And I feel it in Hungary, where Viktor Orban is making a stand, He is refusing Merkel's migrant quotas and boldly defending the Christian culture of Europe. And I feel it in Poland too, where I just returned, where it feels like the Britain we grew up in. Zero illegal immigration, zero terror attacks, and the safest place now in the whole of Europe for young women. It was amazing to see, amazing to be a part of that. And of course we see it in America, where the lines for the Trump rally in Missouri this weekend were over 2 miles long. He will be president in 2020. He gives us hope. And filled with this hope, we will not let our country fall. We can all make a difference. Firstly, most importantly, we must resist the narrative. Just because someone said it and they're wearing a uniform and a badge does not make it true. When we're scared, a strong narrative can be reassuring, like when you're little and you're in trouble and you run and tell your teacher, and so too after terror. We look around for someone in a uniform to tell us what to do. These days in the UK, they say run, hide, tell. My granddad fought in the war. These were not orders that he would recognise. And in the quiet calm of our streets, when the threat is neutralised and another terrorist is taken down, the media machine goes into action. You all see it, and it's terrifying to observe. We stand united. We are not cowed. The terrorists will never win. Light up the Eiffel Tower. A mantra repeated over and over by the Muslim mayor, the Prime Minister, the Chief of Police. The mantra of multicultural acceptance. The same script. Everything the same every time. The real truth is not this fabrication. We do not stand united. Our daughters were left crumpled on the sidewalk. Some lost limbs. Others under a truck. Many fell just trying to leave a concert. We do not carry on as normal. Mothers and fathers bury their children. One boy wrote to me in person about his struggle. He's learning to use his legs again after they were blown apart just near here at the Manchester attack. He does not carry on as normal. Others may appear to, because what's the alternative? What, hiding inside? If this is terror failing, I'd hate to see terror win. So we reject the narrative. Secondly, we commit to arm ourselves with our truths. Sadly, in the UK, we don't have the luxury of a Second Amendment, although I am a signed up and paid member of the National Rifle Association, and I wear that sticker in my car. Other women have babies on board in their cars. I like to think I'm a bit more loaded than that. We don't have the luxury of the Second Amendment, and our police on our streets are armed with the equivalent of a bottle of Cillit Bang and an antibacterial wipe. But we can arm ourselves with information. Information that we can find closest to the source from alternative news outlets. Not information fed through Google or the Fruit Loops at Facebook. We must look for our own truths and help others to find them too. And thirdly, most importantly, we have to find the strength to withstand the constant attacks that we face. People can be unkind, the media can be merciless, and the courts can be cruel. But we all need to find the moral courage to stand strong. I have battles of my own, of course. I've been arrested for writing a column in a newspaper. I was interviewed under caution by the Major Crime and Homicide Command of the Metropolitan Police for daring to suggest that we should stop the ferry boats across the Med. My family are reported to social services on a fairly regular basis. People hope if they take my children from me, that will shut me up. And might make my life a bit easier, to be honest with you. Get ready for the headlines on that one. And vexatious litigation, of course, was never far from my door, but I'm not complaining. There's no self-pity. I put myself out there, and I have to suck it up. If I don't like it, I can go home, sit on my sofa, shut up, and become a vegan, and that's not going to happen, sorry. Americans always think I'm quite similar to Anne-Marie, and I'm like, I'm not a vegan. I'm not a lesbian either, I've just got short hair. Those are different things. But resistance is key. When we come under attack, we need to make like an arrowhead and feel the criticism falling off from our sides. You know, I get a lot of emails from 16 and 17-year-olds who are trapped. They have no voice in school anymore. They're not allowed to be a Brexit supporter or a Trump supporter. They feel like they're claustrophobic. They can't speak out. And I say to them, make like you're diving into a swimming pool. Feel the water coming off your sides. And we all need to imagine that's the criticism falling away from us. And what we have to do is keep moving forward. Don't talk about them. Talk about the things that matter to us. We can keep moving forwards. The Liberals who reject Brexit or try to discredit Trump, they gave birth to our determination to succeed. We are Frankenstein. They are Frankenstein. And we are their monster. We can do this. We reject the narrative, we arm ourselves with the truth, and we find the moral courage to keep moving forward. This is our time. We will not let our country fall. We will get furious and we will fight back for Britain. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm much more accustomed to dealing with hate. I'm rather better at it. I'm allowed 2 questions, so if anybody wants to throw their hands up, we'll try and get a mic to you. There's a gentleman at the back. So what happened to my school tour? So in response to so many young people getting in touch, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. It may surprise you, but the majority of my supporters are actually very young people. When I used to have my radio show, the majority of the listeners were under the age of 24, which I thought was fascinating, actually. I think that would also and should give you substantial hope for a silenced majority that are ready to support when they are able. Anyway, because of the amount of emails, I decided, right, I know, I'll go on a school tour. I won't wait to be invited through the formal channels. I'll ask these kids who are getting in touch with me, if you can make it happen, if you can get permission by your school, if your school head will sign it off and you can get any kind of venue, a classroom, I'll come. No charge, no problem. Here's an agenda of what I'll say so that your teachers can approve it and feel comfortable. So I had a whole tour around the UK set up. All of these school kids made it happen. I was going to go on the road, and all I was going to do is offer them an opportunity to see the story may not always be exactly as it's told, and that there are a number of people out there with different views, and how to have the courage to express those views when you're being bullied at school. But within, I think, a week, that whole school tour was pulled. The Scottish Education Minister came out and threatened the schools that were participating. The Welsh Education Minister banned me from any of the Welsh schools, and there were talks in councils of pulling funding if anybody allowed me onto their property. And the upsetting thing about that, of course, is that there were young people who made that happen, which I thought was a glorious thing. I think it's a great thing. If they hate me, brilliant, bring me in and rip me to pieces and have your say, because that's part of what we're about, is letting people have their say. And I suppose that what I take from it in a positive sense is they are that frightened of us that they have to go to extreme measures to shut us down, and they know, the establishment knows, the mainstream media knows, it is losing its power. And that's what we can take from it in a positive sense. But I still do any school tours, talks that I can. I'm speaking in Westminster School in a few months' time, but what tends to happen is it's the privileged schools that allow me to go there, whereas getting in at the grassroots state schools, they're the ones that resist, and that's hard because there's a lot of kids in there that are looking for someone and something to believe in and help support them. Thank you very much. Am I allowed another one or not? I say about getting our message out to a wider audience, because we're pulled from mainstream, increasingly we're targeted even as alternative media. And for me, that's about being really nimble and really agile. So I can't sit in a room now and just criticise Islam endlessly, because of course I'll be silenced. But what you can do is bring your iPhone and show things. You know, you can walk around that marketplace and just show it without comment. And it is shocking enough to have that same impact. You know, and the reason, for example, we had the Anne-Marie interview that Anne-Marie was kind enough to sit down with me. You know, there are ways of allowing people still to be heard. One of the problems that we have, for Anne-Marie in particular, is she's never allowed to goddamn speak. So bring the woman into a room, just let her talk, and then it turns out to be one of the most viewed videos that we've done. And that's really where I come from with all of this, with all of you guys. I'm on your bench, I'm on your team, and anytime I can help to create a more open platform where views can be discussed, whether you're loved or hated, that's totally what I'm committed to doing. So I'm going to get told off, I better leave the stage. But thank you very much indeed for listening.